Hi, this is Carrie. Welcome back to my channel. This is part 3 of 6, my list of things to consider if you're considering moving to Mexico or some other country. To review, I have 5 buckets that we're going to talk about: the drivers behind your move, your long-term intention, your thoughts around language learning, your approach to engagement, and then decisions around where you're going to live. I've already covered the first topic, drivers, in a previous video, so this is part 3, the second bucket, your long-term intention. So, ask yourself this as you're contemplating this move. Who am I? Am I an expat, or am I going to become an immigrant? Think about that for a minute, because there is definitely a difference. Am I going to be an American living abroad, or am I going to move to a new country and become a resident, a member of that new country? And I think it's a very important question. And again, like the first one, your reasons for coming here, this one drives your success in a very fundamental way. As I watch a bunch of these other creators on YouTube, they very much seem to be pandering toward these people who intend to just become Americans abroad. And then they wonder why they run into trouble down here. And so here's some questions to answer. Get your homework out. You have your lists from last time at the bottom of the page or on the next page. Answer these questions for yourself. Where will my center of life be? Where will my center of life be? Is my life still going to be centered in the United States? Or is my life going to move to Mexico with me? All right? Where's your heart? Home is where your heart is. Now, I've been here a little over a year, and I just want to say that the first 3 months were crushingly difficult emotionally. Okay, I felt so far away from the support systems that I was used to leaning on. And even though I have access to those same people via text or social media or phone calls, somehow it's not the same as knowing they're 20 minutes down the road and we can meet and have dinner together. Okay, so those first transition months were hard, okay? Even though I have life in Mexico, even though I have love in Mexico. Some people would say, I would probably agree, I didn't really have a choice about this move because my husband had to return to Mexico, and because of our broken immigration policies in the United States, there's just no way he could come back. So my choice was my marriage or a decision about where physically I was going to be. And I love my husband and decided that I really needed to be with him. So that's why I moved to Mexico. But that does not change the mental preparation that needs to happen to make this move successful. Okay? So where's your center of life going to be? Are you going to be an American living abroad, or are you going to become, over time, not on day one, an immigrant to this new country? How much time are you planning on spending in both locations? Some people say they're moving to Mexico, but they really are going to spend 6 months in America and 6 months in Mexico. And that is not the same as moving to Mexico. And in fact, according to the other videos I've watched, this can cause them problems when they go apply for their residency permit. because that's fundamentally saying you want to remain a tourist, and there's a different permitting process for that, okay? And even your tourist visa used to automatically be stamped 180 days. So there were a lot of people who were using a tourist visa to live half of the year in Mexico and half of the year in the United States. And those 180-day tourist visas are just not automatically granted anymore. And that has something to do with the political and social upheaval between our country and Mexico right now. And I think we're seeing at the ports of entry, Mexican authorities mirroring a lot of the same, what I consider to be bad behavior that the U.S. immigration is engaging in. And so you don't just come down here with your American passport and just assume everything's going to be stamped okay, okay? You are an immigrant or at least a visitor in another country, and you are asking for permission to enter that country for some period of time. And that country has every right to make sure that that's going to be a positive experience, not just for you, but for the local citizens they are sworn to protect, okay? So come down here thinking about, am I willing to actually move socially, emotionally, not just physically and not just temporarily, to this new country? Have you only visited here on vacation? Because living here is not the same thing. Now, if you use some of these people who are putting themselves out there to help you, they are going to help you locate yourself in essentially an American enclave close to a tourist area, where if you choose, you can continue to largely engage with other English-speaking people and not really enter into the local community. You are likely to run into problems, these problems about why we're leaving Mexico. Some of them come from this attitude of entitlement that can come from these people who essentially want to be on an extended vacation without any thought to the implication of how their presence is affecting the local community. And when you go to get your paperwork, whether that's you're at the airport with a, hoping they're going to give you a 180-day tourist visa, or you've done the right thing and you're applying for temporary residency and you're at the Office of Immigration, they are going to ask you about your living plans. And if you sound like a tourist and you're applying for residency, they may deny that request, okay? So what are your plans? What is your intention long-term as you approach the idea of moving to Mexico? Again, we're seeing Mexican authorities mirroring a lot of U.S. behavior around the way they ask questions, the length of time they give you a visa. It is not guaranteed. Some people would get a 180-day visa, fly to Texas, turn around later that day and just expect another 180-day tourist visa. And if that's your intention, if it's your intention to live here, there's a process for that, and tourist visas is not the process. The process for residency is not that difficult. It is all available online. It is on a web page that is easily translated into English. You can read it and work through it. The requirements are extremely straightforward. So there should be no problems there. If it's your intention to live here, then follow the process of living here. How does that transition happen, that transition from expat to immigrant? I don't know, but I can tell you that I am experiencing it. And during my last trip to the United States to visit, I couldn't wait to get home. And I realized about, a week and a half, 2 weeks into a 3-week trip, that I couldn't wait to get home, and home was here in Mexico. And so, again, what's your long-term intention? Figure that out before you make your move, and it'll help you be successful. All right? Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.